Welcome to this bonus podcast of our college football selection of two. And you may not agree with this,
But
I'm Lowery.
and I'm Eric Thomas.
And we think that we have the answers to the college football playoff, Eric. We think that we can do just as good a job as the committee that actually seeds the teams.
Yeah. We don't put our heads together, so the viewers need to know we do this separately, and then we bring it all in. And last week we had about 9. We had 10 of the 12. I think
we did. Actually, it was 11. We just have a different of opinion of seeding, but we actually had 11 of the 12 teams.
Yeah, so the blueprint is out there, and now this week I did some reshuffling based on I flipped a couple programs because after I looked, I said, nah, I don't think I did that right. So we'll see how it shakes out.
And before we get started, we need to do what?
Like, share, and subscribe at Warden Broadcast Network, WBN, baby, at YouTube.
And this bonus podcast is brought to you by Modley's Plumbing and Heating. You never know when you need a plumber till you need a plumber. And you can check them out by giving them a call at 304-253-HELP and by Massey's Power Sports. And right now is a great time to make that purchase for Christmas, that big purchase. And they got 0% financing on a side-by-side. Eric, I can see you going out in the neighborhood in your side-by-side.
Yeah, as long as they got a cup holder for my blue can.
Your blue can of Pepsi,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get started. First of all, what we're going to do here is I'll go, then Eric go. Like I said, we haven't shared this, so turn that away so I can't see it.
Well, you can't see anyway.
I
can't see that.
I haven't seen. I don't know what Eric's going to pick. He doesn't know what I'm going to pick. We'll see. We'll tell you who they are, 12 through 1, and then we'll tell them how it may play out. All right, so I'll get started. My 12th team is Boise State, and of course, Boise State is a group of 4. Is that what they call them?
Yeah.
Group of 4 team, and you have to have one of their teams in it, and I have Boise State at 12.
Yeah, so I have the Georgia Bulldogs falling all the way to 12.
Yeah, and of course, Georgia had their second loss as they took it on the chin in the rain and the fog down at Ole Miss. All right, my number 11 team is Ole Miss, and Ole Miss by beating Georgia the way they did convincingly in the rain and in the fog. I have Ole Miss in at number 11.
Okay, and I'm rolling with another SEC team, but it's going to be the Alabama Crimson Tide coming in at number 11.
And Alabama, boy, they laid the wood to LSU also in the rain and the beatdown. And Alabama looks like maybe they're kind of hitting their stride maybe at the right time.
Yeah, and that's the team. They played in the semis last year. Now, I just think if they can get it all put together, they're going to be a deadly team to play going forward.
And I'll piggyback on that because Alabama's my number 10 team, who I have the Crimson Tide in. I didn't have them in last week, but I got them in at number 10 this week.
Well, see, I had to ease them back in. You just jumped them all the way up to number 10. So I'm going with my Fighting Sigs, the Signettis, the Indiana Hoosiers in at number 10.
All right, the number 9 team, I have Tennessee, and Tennessee will have what I think, and you agree, Eric, an elimination game this week when they play Georgia, because I think whoever loses that game will definitely be out. But I have Tennessee in at number 9.
Yes, and I have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in at number 9.
Yeah, they're beat down to Florida State, and I'll tell you, it's amazing how far Florida State has fallen.
Yeah.
To be undefeated last year and to be as bad as they are. By the way, after Notre Dame beat Florida State, they fired their offensive coordinator, their defensive coordinator, and their wide receiver coach. And Florida State is really decimated. And I don't think they're going to win any games the rest of the way and finish 1-11.
Wow, that's tough. After going undefeated, knocking on the door of playing for the national championship.
All right, my number 8 team will be the Penn State Nittany Lions.
Well, I'm going for Boise State here at number 8, and the reason I'm keeping them in the top 8 is they're a group of the group of 5 or whatever, and they have a loss to Oregon, who's going to fall in the top whatever, and it was a close game.
A 3-point game.
A 3-point game. So other than the Ohio State game, the closest game that Oregon's had is against Boise State.
My number 7 team are the Indiana Hoosiers. And Indiana had a little bit of struggle with a not very good Michigan team, but Indiana found a way to get it. We'll see what Indiana's all about in a couple of weeks when they play the Ohio State University.
Yeah, and that's why I'm rolling with an SEC team. I guess I have some SEC biases right here because I'm going with Tennessee at number 7. Just based on the teams that they played and even the teams they've lost to. I mean, Indiana beating Michigan and Michigan State doesn't really impress me. That's not it.
My number 6 team in the Fighting Irish, Notre Dame. I'll lay a little stat on you about Notre Dame and Tennessee. They're the only two teams in the country that no one has scored more than 24 points on them in any one game. They're the only two. Think out of how many teams that play college football, those are the only two defenses that have not allowed more than 24 points in any one game this season. So I have Notre Dame in at number 6.
Okay, so I'm going with Penn State, the Nittany Lions, at 6.
And then number 5, I have the Ohio State University. They'll have a tune-up against Northwestern, and then they'll have that big showdown against Indiana before they have what they call their biggest showdown against Michigan. But Michigan's not very good this year, but they do have them at home. But so that Indiana, Ohio State, that feels like an elimination game to me.
Yeah, and I'm putting Ohio State in at number 5 as well.
Now, and we go to the top 4. This gets a little tricky, I think, to some degree. And it gets tricky because of the way you have to see it. You have to have conference champions in. And Miami was rolling until Georgia Tech punched them in the mouth. And you called it, Eric. You said last week of all the higher seeds that might lose their first game, it'd be Miami because of the lack of defense.
Yes.
And with that, I have got Miami completely out of the top 12. And my number 4 team is the team right now that can controls their own destiny. SMU at number 4, leading the ACC, who's who I have at the number 4 slot.
Yeah, no, but I'm still going to go with Miami at number 4 just because it's going to be the ACC champ. And I think head-to-head, I've had a chance to watch SMU twice. While I think it'll be a high-scoring affair, I think Miami still may be able to win that game.
And here's the thing about that, Eric. This is all going to play itself out because they're either going to play each other or somebody. It's all going to play itself out.
Yep, it totally will.
All right, the number 3 team. I've got to be impressed. BYU, a game they probably shouldn't have won. They're the top team in the Big 12, and right now, if BYU wins out and Colorado wins out, they'll play for the Big 12 championship. But if West Virginia can win out, and I saw this, if they went out and get a little help, West Virginia can find their way in the Big 12. But the help they have to get, they got to have Iowa State to lose again and Kansas State lose because they lost to both of those teams. They'll lose the tiebreaker. But right now, I'm going to go with BYU.
Yeah, and I also have BYU in as the Big 12 champ. Winning that Holy War, what was it, 22-21?
22-21.
And Utah was not very happy losing that game on their home field.
And number 2, I moved Texas into that number 2 slot from the Southeastern Conference. Texas at number 2, the beat down over Florida over the weekend.
Yeah, I got to hook 'em horns in there as well, number 2.
And number 1, I have Oregon. The Oregon Ducks, quack, quack, the Ducks in the top spot.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm rolling with Oregon until someone can knock them off this perch in the Big Ten. They're rolling towards the Big Ten champion.
So, Eric, out of the 12 teams, we agree on 10 of them. Now, I had Georgia all the way out, and that was really hard for me. And I'm going to give you my thought process of why I jumped them out. Because they lost to Ole Miss and they lost to Alabama. They have 2 losses, and both of those teams have 2 losses. And I looked at head-to-head. That's why I put Ole Miss in over them and Alabama in over them.
All right, yeah, so we'll see how it plays out, but I'm still not sold on Ole Miss. So Ole Miss had a good win this weekend, but it's the SEC. 2 more weeks, 2 to 3 more weeks left in that gauntlet of playing each other, and it's going to be a lot of reshuffle.
And also the reason I had Miami all the way out is because when they're in that position as a conference champion, and once you lose and lose the way they did, I just didn't have any other room to put them when these other teams won, like Alabama and like Ole Miss. So that's why I have Miami out. But like you said, it could change next week. Miami can definitely play their way back into the mix.
Yeah, back in it. And I think I couldn't have them losing a game to Georgia Tech, whom they lost to last week, knocking them completely out. So we'll see how it plays out.
All right, so this is how I have the matchups going. I have the 9-8 game. I have Tennessee, number 9, would be on the road at number 8, Penn State.
Right, and I have, in my 9-8 game, I have Notre Dame on the road on the Smurf turf in Boise State.
And I have the 12-5 game, Boise State coming to Columbus to take on Ohio State.
And I have Georgia in the 12-5 game, 12 Georgia going to Ohio State to play them.
Well, last week we had Alabama going there. This week we have Georgia going there. What a great atmosphere would be. Either or.
Yeah,
Should it play out like that?
Yes.
All right, the 10-7 game, I have Alabama going to Bloomington to take on Indiana.
And I have Indiana at 10 going down to see the Tennessee Volunteers at 7.
My 11-6 matchup, I have Ole Miss coming to South Bend to take on the Irish.
Well, wouldn't this be intriguing? My 11-6 is Alabama going to Happy Valley to play Penn State.
That'd be great. And of course, we have Oregon against the bye. They'll take on the winner of the 8-9 game. SMU will take on the winner of the 5-12 game. I have Texas taking on the winner of the 10-7 game, and BYU taking on the winner of the 11-6 game.
Yeah, in mine, I have Oregon playing the winner of the 9-8, which would be Notre Dame, Boise State. Wouldn't that be a good matchup to win a rematch if Boise State would happen to win of a season opening game.
Yeah, and when I think, Eric, you're looking at Georgia and Tennessee coming up this week. The loser of that is definitely out.
Definitely out.
Because that would be Tennessee's second loss. It would be Georgia's third loss if that happens. And I also think because of the lack of schedule that Indiana has, if Indiana was to lose at Ohio State, come up with one loss, I think Indiana's out.
I think they would be because their strength of schedule, and I looked this up as I was doing the research, out of all these teams we listed, they're the worst strength of schedule. But you penalizing the team for a schedule that was made.
Right, they can't help it, but it is what it is.
But it is.
And here's another thing intriguing about the Big 12, like I mentioned a minute ago. Should BYU win out, should Colorado keep winning, that game is a playoff game because the loser of that game will not get in.
Would definitely be eliminated.
Yeah. So that's how we have it. We have to do what?
Like, share, and subscribe at Warden Broadcasting Network, WBN, on YouTube.
And I tell you what, this is a committee of two, and we think that we know just as much as the committee knows. And you can write down in the, I guess there's a box where you can see whether you agree with us or don't agree with us.
Give us your comments, and we'll read them. We'll take it into consideration, and we'll see you next week.
All right, and once again, this podcast brought to you by Massey Power Sports and by Modley's Plumbing and Heating, 304-253-HELP, and we hope everybody has a pleasant day.